Here's this big on you. Somebody can say something.
It's right on the counter there. It's under there.
So I didn't see this. No, it's not. So you're in charge of that. It's it.
Yeah, that's it. It needs its topper though here.
It's the right one.
Yep.
You want to show the screen?
Your eggs are ready.
Okay.
I'm just waiting to hear Jan and Michael are saying. Yep. You guys are good?
Yeah.
Thanks very much. Meeting's called to order. First order of business today is a public hearing to review proposed application for 402 Warren Street. Apologies on the agenda. I've gotten the name wrong several times. So we'll just stick with 402 Warren Street, and I see Walter, you're on.
I am. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Walter. We're good to go whenever you're ready to.
Okay.
Just remind folks, this is the public hearing part of our meeting. The commission will have an opportunity to review, discuss, and so on later on. So this is just all about the folks in the public.
So I need somebody to stop sharing so I can share.
Done.
Perfect. Now I just have to find what I want to share. Okay. Can everyone see my screen and see a picture of the little row house?
Yes.
Great. All right, let me just do what I need to do to make that even a better image. All right, maybe I'm not going to do that right now. There. So I think the thrust of the conversation last time seemed like everybody was pretty okay with everything, at least on the commission, except for the row house. So we had some serious discussions and internally and decided, you know what, for 2 hotel rooms, it's just not worth the bother. So the new proposal that we have before you is like the other proposal, but it has eliminated the additional rooms that we were proposing on top of this structure here. And we've simplified the proposed structure that we would have there to be an extension of that corrugated metal box that we were proposing behind Warren Street. So we basically run this along the property line, the east property line. And as I say, we're going to try and do the project without changing the roof line of the small row house. Now, this illustration doesn't show what we probably have a roof cricket back there somewhere and some gutters. Chip can explain all that better than I could, but basically the idea is, okay, nobody liked it, or there were a lot of issues, so we're taking it away. What do you think now? And with that, I guess we can open it up to a general discussion.
I think that's great. I think, but if the purpose of the public hearing is to maybe you want to connect the public to the entire project very, very quickly, Walter.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I guess
It's a public hearing. It's not just for us.
No, I understand. I guess it was a continuation, so I was assuming incorrectly. So this proposal, let's go back to the elevations, is to take the existing buildings that stretch down 4th Street, starting at Warren, down to Prison Alley, and to take this vacant lot here, at the moment vacant, and build a hotel on the combined properties, and we would keep the historic buildings pretty much as they are and infill a building here, which would be the entrance to the hotel and therefore would have a high roof because we have elevators in there that need an override. So for this, we're proposing a, mansard and a setback building here. And then at this point, we're proposing restoring this little row house building here and also this 3-story building here, which was at one time a hotel and possibly it was also offices. And as I say, so the brick bits are the historic buildings. This is our infill proposal, as is this thing you're seeing here, you're seeing behind the building, down the alley about 20 feet. So it would not be visible in any way, shape, or form from the street, except if you looked up the alley and happened to see the side of the building. And we produced a series of perspectives just to kind of show the effect. This is the new building we're proposing here that I mentioned with the elevators. This is this corrugated metal clad part back here, frankly utilitarian, and I think would very clearly set off what the historic material is and what the infill is, which I think is a very important point. We're not, this is clearly infill in my mind. We're treating it historically just because it's part of the historic street front. So I hope that has brought us current and everybody now understands where we're at in the discussion.
Okay, anything else, Walter? Are you ready for folks to weigh in from the public?
Matthew, do you have anything to add?
Yes, just hi, Matthew Tether with Liska McCormick Van Voorhis. So if we could take a look at the roof plan for a second, just if somebody's coming to the project for the first time. So on here, and Walter, maybe you could move the cursor. There are 2 existing buildings on the site. This one here that's right at the corner, and here's our row house. And the other areas of the site are infill. I just wanted to mention that so people are oriented to the site and the property. Thank you.
Anything else on the presentation, or why don't we start taking comments?
It will be Matt McGee speaking.
Yes, my name is Matt McGee. As a person of Mohegan and Dutch descent, I'm touched by this place with its river that flows both ways and its Dutch history. I would like to see its noble accomplishments of the past preserved. And I believe these buildings are outstanding examples of that. And I believe that they were designed and by the same person. And I think they were very high quality. And I think the quality is such that I'm inclined to think that a person such as A.J. Davis may have actually designed them. The row houses are a wonderful example of Greek revival with really very interesting treatment. The doorways have been stripped right down to their simplest matter. The way they frieze above at the roof line is indicated with just brickwork. There is no woodwork with its little windows. And the materials, it's brick with marble, and the stoops actually were 14-inch thick I believe it's granite. They've been hacked away. But anyway, all the indications are there of a great designer. And the main building, which was the hotel and commercial spaces, also is an outstanding example of architecture of its period. And I believe they were built or designed by the same person. And I also believe that they are designed and built possibly by different people, but the work that's the way they are designed is also has a great deal in common with the building on the corner of Third and Warren. The front of the main building at 402, I believe, was basically another version of that front of that building. And again, a very stripped down Greek design. And I think that these are stunning, and they are a great asset for the people in the city of Hudson. And I think the owner would have an asset too if these buildings were restored. And I believe that the missing row house at 14 4th Street should be rebuilt and do material.
Other folks?
I'm sorry, I'm not finished.
Forgive me.
Wait, to be clear, he's asking for the.
In New York City, buildings have, there's a promise recently to rebuild a building on Gay Street in the Greenwich Village Historic District. It had to be taken down because it was near to collapse. And in the past, at least 4 houses in Greenwich Village were rebuilt after having actually collapsed. Julius's Bar being one of them. And I think that surely Hudson could do the same and rebuild 14 North 4th Street. The remaining row and old houses and old photographs have all the information that's needed to get it right. And you know, this has been done around in the world, in Japan and Germany, Russia, and Poland in particular. Things have been restored and rebuilt because, again, these people want to preserve and have the noble accomplishments of their past. And I think we deserve the same. The ground floor of 402 Warren Street could be restored using the building at 3rd and Warren as a model. The pillars and the remaining fragments around the existing doorway at 402 were made of rough finished granite and is dressed with a stone finish to match marble. The square molding at the top of the lintel may be marble. For reconstruction, the core need not be granite for these pillars. They could be cased I-beams given a marble finish and would do just as well as putting back the actual granite, which is then covered with the finish of marble. probably using marble dust and some kind of sand and originally and linseed oil. The I-beams that are now forming the lintels of the building could remain in place and given a marble finish as well. And this noble ensemble of buildings could be restored to their former glory. And I just think that, you know, this is a valuable asset and it can be made to really reflect the scale and the look of life here at the time they were built. And I think the city of Hudson is remarkable in that respect because there's so much of it that is still the scale and finish and look of another time. And I think we need our history. And I think we have a prime example of this in our political situation. Our Constitution is you know, being ignored. Our past is being ignored. And I think we should hold on to it. I think it helps us to understand our lives and go forward. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Other folks?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Christabel?
Oh, yes, it's Christabel. I'm sorry, I'm having some technical problems. Let
Not
me
at all.
just tell
Your
you what
vo-
I have to say.
Your voice is very clear.
Oh, good. This project seems to have evolved since it first appeared on Gossips and is moving in the right direction. The use of corrugated metal on the new buildings at the center of the block seems successful. The original buildings that are being incorporated are relatively austere early examples and are among the amazing survivors that make downtown Hudson a beautiful, unique place that it is. I would question the introduction of a mansard roof on the new building B. I understand that it may conceal an elevator overrun, but masking the overrun may not be the best approach. It adds a great deal of height and bulk in a somewhat alien style. Especially if it can be set back, it could be treated as the utilitarian feature that it is, which might be less disruptive of the fragile character of this intersection. Also worth considering would be echoing the 4-bay fenestration on the building that was lost with additional windows above the hotel entrance, which might help mitigate the new height. Certainly, I hope that the new hotel can become an asset to Hudson that fits in with the real historic architecture that we are fortunate to have here while maintaining its own distinctive presence. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Christabel. Anyone else?
I had heard that other people were going to speak. The screen is rather different from what it has been in the past. I think there's an update or something.
Do you want Walter to not share so we can see everyone and we can hand up?
That'd be great.
Did
Walter,
Alan
you-
Newman join?
Could you unshare for a minute so we see all the folks?
I don't know how. Sorry. I'll just turn it off.
Ronald still has his hand up.
Oh, there.
I want to be sure we cover everybody who wants to speak.
Does Ron Kopnicki have his hand raised?
He does.
Matt would like to ask a question if there's no one else who's speaking at the moment.
Oh, I forgot to ask if you had received the images. I emailed to all of you with the understanding that you were able to receive them.
Yes.
Yes,
yes.
we did.
Yes.
Okay, I hope that you reviewed them and have understood and appreciate what I have offered to save these buildings. Thank you.
Again, anyone else who wants to speak during the public hearing, or we will, close the public hearing and go to regular order of business. Going once, going twice. Public hearing is closed. Regular order of business begins. First order is to review the minutes for the meeting of January 13th. Everybody get them?
Make a motion to approve.
Very nice. And a second? All in favor? Aye. Approved. Second order is certificate of appropriateness votes. And if we can put those up on the screen.
Hello.
Hello, Christabel. No, Alan Newman is not in the meeting.
Okay.
If folks could turn off their audio.
You should have, yeah. Just mute it. We're good.
I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry, what did you say?
I said, we're gonna look at the certificates of appropriateness prepared by the city attorney
Okay,
and vote on those.
okay, first step is,
I've got 113 more.
yes, let me just share my screen. Is this one? Okay, here's 113. This was the Robert Jenkins house. It was the third floor 6/6 replacement vinyl for wood. Including the wood storm doors at the rear. And the removal of that non-functioning south chimney.
May I have a motion to approve?
I make that motion.
Jeremy and Paul, all in favor?
I,
C of A is approved. We will stamp, sign, and Craig will have that available on Monday. 739 Columbia.
Uh, 739, this was. The skylights, the flush mount skylights that are currently remaining to be facing west. The vinyl removal of the front of the building continues. Everything else will be approved.
Motion.
Did they return with details of this, of the storefront and what they found with the?
Yes,
Great.
and you were correct in what you anticipated being under the vinyl. Shockingly enough. The scallop stuff was there.
Great.
That was a pretty good call.
So the C of A was approved with this condition that's highlighted right now.
I'm sorry, we can't read it.
It's the western facing skylights shall be flush mounted and the color of the frame shall match the roof shingles.
Motion, please. Jeremy, second. Miranda, all in favor? C of A is approved.
So Phil, when you attach the application, make sure you attach the original and the updates.
Understood.
Those will achieve it.
Thanks, Victoria.
Okay.
201 1/2 Allen Street.
This was the hardscape landscape project with the lap pool. hardscaping fencing. It was that long narrow lot. Including a 7-foot by 12-foot flat pool.
All, and a second, anyone, you, all in favor?
Aye.
CBA is approved. 558 Warren Street.
This was the, simply a wooden sign, I think it was called the proprietors.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Nice. Paul, and second, Miranda, approved. Thanks very much. We completed our C of A votes, and we'll get those to Craig with distribution of folks. Next up, C of A applications. I've got just one new one, and then we'll go to commission discussion of 402 Warren Street. 750 Union Street is signed. Is anyone here from 750 Union? Going, gone. Well, that'll go on to the next meeting. Then we can go back to 402 Warren Street. And this time it's the commission. Comments, thoughts?
I'll start. Walter, I can appreciate you sort of keeping the integrity of the two townhouses and not getting the additional story on. I think that was a great move. I like the project overall. I do have some concerns about that infill building, and I understand why you're putting the mansard type roof on top, which sort of complements the two mansard roofs behind it, but I'm not so sure if that really works. That's just my opinion.
I agree. I've been thinking about that roof for quite a while, and I think Christabel said it really beautifully. I just feel like it feels a little grand for the surrounding buildings and really sticks out. I'd rather that roof be simplified in some capacity, or maybe infill it with something more modern and don't try to make it. It feels constructed to me, like it's not natively part of the street.
Can I speak?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I'm sorry. It's I thought Chris, first of all, I want to thank Walter and the client, because preserving the integrity of that row house, I think, is a big difference. And I even appreciated the effort they made to create a hybrid last visit. But this is, you know, seeing the drawing of it looking restored is obviously the right way to go. And I think that's beautifully done. I think also, unfortunately, it does even make the mansard roof more prominent. And I think Christabel said it really well. It was kind of what I was thinking over in anticipation of this meeting. Is there any way to move the elevator deeper into further into the building, and in so doing preserve the scale of the addition? Sure, it would be great if it were modern. Sure, it would be great if it were restored. You know, all those sound great. I think the problem really is the style and height. And I know, Walter, I know it's a lot to ask, and I know you've been presenting to us for some time. I think it's really about the importance of the project. That's why it's getting such scrutiny. So with that, I'll pause.
Well, there's a lot I could say. I think this board knows that I very much disagreed with the public speakers on the renovation of 59 Allen Street. I believe when one sees the disparity between the upper windows, which were proved historic and the board allowed us to put those in, and the lower windows, it begins to reveal a certain willfulness and a certain cherry picking about what's acceptable. So I have to say, I went along with 59 Allen Street, and that was very painful to me. I thought that was going to be I'm serious about this renovation of my late career. And we renovated it in a manner that I believe reflects how it was when the supervisor of the plant took the property and renovated it. So if it was a Davis house, it isn't anymore. So I say that because now I feel a new set of ground rules have been established where I too can feel willful and subjective. And in my opinion, if we have 2 elevator towers and various mechanical things, putting a mansard roof, setting the building back so you can have a proper hotel entrance with handicap accessibility on a side street, all the urban design questions, so forth, kind of have driven this. And I find myself a little bit agog because I think we might have opened ourselves up to criticism because we removed the mansard on the addition. So now, yes, of course, you can say this looks weird. So I say at some point, we're trying to get the piers back on Warren Street. And if we find more evidence of piers, we certainly will notify the board and put them in. I would say that if we don't find evidence of those piers, there are plenty of renovations, including ones done by the company who's doing this, that I can point to that people found they didn't like the way the windows looked, or they didn't like the brick, or they didn't like the stone that was put on. So we are really, I'm sorry, board, in a very subjective place. So I've been on record as saying objectively, historically, what I think is correct. These may be A.J. Davis buildings. I'm happy to restore as much as we can. I would now ask the board to consider how far we've come on a proposal that's been before you for quite a while, that's been before the planning board, and we have done tremendous amounts of planning. We have our mechanical plans, we have our elevator preliminary contracts laid out. If you guys didn't like this building a while ago, we should have discussed that. Instead, we went into the, can you look at the roof on the row houses? So I find myself surprised. So I'm just going to say that from my standpoint, I think I speak for Matthew, we have done everything we were asked to do at the last meeting with gusto and as much style as we could muster, and thought we were responding. And if we start picking this whole thing apart, then I would say, why don't we look at the 1950s storefronts? Why can't we have plate glass windows? You know, what if we want to have a more 1950s thing? People would say, well, no, you can't do that. That's not authentic. So at some point, what is authentic, and I said this about the Alger House, is what works together and looks like an authentic ensemble. If you guys want us to put that row house back, we're going to have to, you know, put a handicap ramp all the way down 4th Street. We're trying to save the existing buildings and the existing fabric by making an economically viable project that we have spent tremendous energy on. So I would like to conclude by saying, we are open to anything and the board gets to decide this, but in terms of what we have done on this project to date, please just look at everything you've asked us to do, look at the record, and I think you'll agree that up to this moment, we've done it all. But now I think it's fair to say enough.
I'm gonna respond just for a moment, which is, we had not heard from the public before, Walter. Those were sessions where the board advised you. It is our responsibility to listen to the public and take their commentary seriously. The second thing I would say is, no one's telling you, there was one suggestion from the public to restore that 4th Street missing element. That's not what Jeremy just said. Jeremy just said, what about something else? What about something modern? I think, and I also would say that the mansard roof was troubling from the beginning and to some members of this commission. And I believe that I believe we're getting to it, and the public echoed that. So I think we're still in the deliberation phase, with all due respect, and we are now getting inputs from others besides ourselves.
That I apologize. I think I can stand by most of what I said, but anything that was inappropriate, I apologize.
Nothing inappropriate at all. I think you've been flexible and supportive, and I hope we are trying to be the same. But there is an element there that didn't just ring with a few members of this commission. It obviously rang with other members of the public.
This is Matthew with LMV. I appreciate the passion and the lively discussion. We welcome everyone's comments. I think it's refreshing to be able to hear from the public today. No, we're not always going to agree on everything. That's why we have Historic Preservation Commission and meetings like this. I think that we want to sort of let the dust settle and collect our thoughts on the design team and take a step back and look at this in the big picture. Possibly what has happened is that in making what I think is a good decision on not having that third floor on the row house, by having the architecture behind that actually take a little genuflection and respecting that by being different and letting the historic thing kind of sing. Maybe, and I'm just talking off the top of my head, maybe that has sort of resulted in the thing that we're talking about today, having maybe not gone through that same process. But I think that's premature for me to say that, but I think we want on the design team end, with Walter and on our team here at LMV, I think we want to digest the public comments today. And anyway, my thoughts. Thank you.
I'm going to speak one more time, which is Walter. We're a little, we don't have Chip here today, who often is a great bridge.
Yeah, Chip is here.
He is here today.
I apologize.
That's all right. It was a good call. Hey, John, I want to ask a question because I'm not following the current logic right now. And for a couple points. One, the public comments are to be taken seriously, but they are not as such direction to the commission. They're information for the commission. We're the deciders, in fact, on next steps. I heard a couple of interesting things that were reflected by the commissioners, and it was really specifically on the mansard. And I thought the big issue was very well framed by Krista Bell. There are a couple theories of the case in dealing with modernity, including things like building mechanicals and elevator requirements for engines and pulleys and whatnot. There's a theory of the case that says, cover the damn things, they're ugly. And do what you can to create an appropriate match or something that's otherwise appropriate to the rest of the structure and the streetscape, or accept it as what it is, and don't necessarily try to hide it, but accept it as a modern element in addition to the historic structure. Theory one, cover the damn things, we've been looking at, and maybe it's something the commission pushed for, or there were other design reasons. Theory number two, expose the modernity for what it is, and deal with it in those terms, and they're both legit. I'm not trying to push you on a case, but speaking just for myself, I don't see any other big issues confronting the commission that would require a new review, a new deep dive, or any of that. What I heard was we need to continue this discussion and we need to talk about the mansard roof.
I just want to thank Phil, because I think that's very clarifying and I think correct. And I think for me, what I'm hearing is that we have always had discussions about the mansard roof. It is one solution to this problem of covering the mechanicals. Historically, lots of buildings added a top story by creating a mansard roof. That's one of the reasons why that was used so much. So it's not out of the question, but what it does do is draw attention to itself with a kind of grandeur
Absolutely.
That's that style. And I think what I'm hearing from people is that by removing the added story on the row houses and allowing them to express their simplicity, this grandeur then becomes a dominant part of the whole project, when before it was one element among many. So the question really is that the best way, as Phil was saying, to handle the need to cover the mechanicals and the elevator? Or is there something else that would be more consistent with the now period simplicity of surrounding buildings?
I think that's very well put. And Bill's point about the sort of two concepts is perfectly valid. The point is, you take the one approach, which is to hide it. It's how you hide it, how you detail it, how you creatively mask it. And the other is, of course, if it's to be revealed, how do you creatively reveal it and make it both attractive and appropriate? They are two perfectly legitimate approaches. I think it's two perfectly legitimate approaches to replace the row house that has been demolished, to replace it in kind and to restore it. That's a perfectly legitimate approach. It's also perfectly legitimate to replace it with something new. The question for the architects is, how do they do that? And how does that become appropriate, whichever approach they take? I do have, so I would love to see the architects apply themselves to a different solution for the mansard roof. I think we're certainly in the deliberation stage here, and it's just pencil on paper, and I think we should, having heard from the public, I think that the commission always has the option to ask for continued review and continued refinement. This is a very important building. And so I would look forward to the architects applying themselves to other concepts for that problem of the elevator.
Chip, question for you. And forgive me, this is probably naive. Often what you're looking at in a roof is air handlers and stuff like that. They're not pretty, but they're of a scale that eventually the eye just doesn't see them. They just are what they are. The problem or complication, I believe, with works and gears and whatever is required for an elevator, is they're not so little. And they require a certain amount of height and access to the mechanicals on top. What would you think, or is this unfair, if they were just in the simplest possible way exposed as what they are?
Well, I think that's part of the second option that you outlined. One is to hide it, the other is to reveal. But I disagree with the comment that sooner or later we don't see it anymore, or we get used to it.
I understand.
I think that's an unfortunate approach, because we do see it, and of course there's an awful lot of stuff that we see in Hudson that we all want to ignore, but that's really not what we want to do. We want to relish what we see, and we want it to be beautiful. So I think it's incumbent upon the applicant to bring forward other solutions. I think that the mansard roof is overly grand. I think it relates back to an architectural style of mansard roof that is quite elaborate and quite grand. I think your term of grandiose is a very good term for that. It's a little too over the top. And now I think particularly with the wonderful elimination of the third floor over the two townhouses, I think it's a huge game changer to take that floor off of those two townhouses. It's a huge improvement and a massive improvement. And I think it begins to reset a little bit the approach for the infill. The other thing I wanted to ask about, because I couldn't quite see it in the drawings, was the intention of the what's referred to as the sheet metal addition. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that looks like. the drawings are not really very clear. I couldn't see them very clearly. And I don't quite understand in the floor plan. If you could show us a first floor plan about how the building is working with the site and particularly with the alley, because I think that we're very concerned about what the alley looks like and what the alley is and how it lives. And this is going to have a huge impact in the alley. And we know that it's very beneficial for us to have buildings on the alleys that overlook the alley with windows and activity. And I'm not quite sure in the floor plan that's being proposed, what kind of activity goes on in the alley? How do those buildings, how does that sheet metal addition interact? Thank you. Thank you.
So the request is could we take a look at the an alley view, if you will, of the proposed construction?
Yes, but also Chip wanted to see a plan. If it's okay, I'm going to put up right now a elevation and just tell you what's happening behind it. Okay, is that now? Sorry. Is that up and can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the actual alley elevation here. And what's going on here, obviously, that's the blank end of the current row house under discussion. Then there's an inset, which is a secondary entrance and obviously egress for the hotel. Then there's another blank wall because there are hotel rooms behind that. And then here, you go down a little walkway and that's a little tail that takes you into the service. And then from the side, there's the tail again, the service tail. So there's a little gap between this building and the adjacent property. And then these are all hotel rooms facing onto, not directly onto the alley, but looking east, perpendicular to the alley. And then I'll just show you, there's the alley. There's that elevation that I just showed you. So that's the little one-story tail. So Chip, to answer your question, this on the ground floor is all the kitchen and service here. And then down here, these are all hotel rooms.
And the little finger that is sticking out there that I think is it just a one-story finger that?
It's a one-story finger that contains our trash room. It's right there.
Okay. So the trash room access is through those double doors
Right
that
out to the alley, yes.
yeah. And then okay, so that's 1 story high. And then are there are windows, you've created a kind of a courtyard, if you will.
Yes, yes.
3-dimensionally, it's hard to read it just because we only have the elevations and we only have this site plan roof. It's really just a roof plan. So the 2 and 3 stories that is parallel to Warren Street, that's above the trash bin or the trash room. That trash room is roofed.
It's a room, yes. Sorry, is that what you asked?
It has a roof.
Yes, yes, it has.
Okay. So are there hotel rooms that overlook that are parallel to Warren Street?
There are hotel rooms here that look back over it. So
Those 2 windows, exactly.
correct,
Those are hotel rooms?
correct.
Okay. And then keep this elevation up, if you would please. Then the building that is, or the infill building that is to the left of the historic townhouses has 2 floors. And those are hotel rooms?
Sorry, do you mean, are we on Warren Street now?
No, on the alley.
Yeah, there's 3 stories here. It's all 3 stories that we're adding.
Yeah, I'm sorry, the 2nd and 3rd floor, those 2 stories are hotel rooms.
No, those are corridor and the stair.
Interior circulation.
Interior circulation.
Okay, so there are no hotel rooms there. And then the blank wall that is to the left of that,
Yes,
those, that there's no corridor in there, there's no, that's just the hotel room.
that's the side of a hotel room right there, yes. So again, there is that hotel room in that line there.
Yes. Would that hotel room that's on the corner of the alley and the interior, east wall, would those benefit, those interior rooms benefit from having windows looking at the alley?
Well, let me turn that around and say, would that benefit our discussion with HPC if we had windows on the alley? Because I have no objection. Usually you don't, obviously, because it's right there, and if the guy comes with the trash truck at 4 a.m., but I guess we'll hear him out the front window anyway, so sure. I mean, we could dress it up. It's interesting, though, I mean, apropos the discussion we just had, so that could be dressed up, and this can be dressed down, right? I mean, I think that's what I'm saying. So we can kind of average, do a blended average over the whole thing.
The benefit.
Also
of
issues of privacy.
The benefit of having additional windows on the alley is to show in an urban setting that there's a kind of a supervision overlook activity there that promotes a healthy alley.
Okay.
I think there is something for the commission to understand in terms of the sight lines from 4th Street, looking over the historic buildings, the two townhouses, and seeing the roof line of exactly in this photo, in this drawing, which of course is flat and shows a greater impact than in reality. I think it would be very helpful to understand, does that, what the impact, there we go, that's, yeah.
That's taken from an elevated view across the street to double emphasize that this would not be visible from 4th Street.
Got it. That's super helpful, thank you. Yeah.
And there's your blank wall, Chip. Now, that blank wall, you know, some people have spoken eloquently about blank walls in front of this and other projects. So there are 2 blank walls in the dialogue.
I recall hearing that A.J. Davis was a huge fan of blank walls, which is why, Walter, you were not able to illuminate one of the rooms in your house.
We're getting a little feedback from the owl. Thank you.
Anyway, I'd like, if at all possible, to narrow the ask. Because we've gone through this a couple times, and in every instance, the applicant has been quite responsive and creative in coming back to us. And I understand where Chip is going with the alley. I'm a prison alley person, or was prior to the departure of my beloved dog, Bob. Can we focus just on, I mean, what is our ask? I understand lots of people have lots of views as a commission.
I would suggest that what we're asking for is a whole comprehensive presentation that addresses all of these things. We're in a very preliminary state here. Although we have drawings of the exterior, we don't have the details of the storefront. We don't have the details for the legitimate restoration of the two townhouses, their stoops and their windows and their detailing. And we don't have any architectural details of the proposed infill, the sheet metal, the quote unquote sheet metal infill, I think that needs to be articulated for us to review. Just saying that it's a sheet metal box is kind of not enough to understand that impact that it will have on the adjacent property and on the alley. So I think that the applicant has made fantastic progress and has an incredible project here. And we want to support it 100%, no doubt. I think that what we're looking for is sort of the next level of design refinement, architectural detailing to be brought to the commission for us to review.
Clearly the request for detail so that we understand specifications, materials, shapes is straight up. There's no question about that. What I want to be able to be extremely clear about is, in addition to all that, which is just a level of professionalism and dialogue with the commission, can we say that in terms of most of what we're looking at, or all of what we're looking at, that we're either there or close to there, depending on what we learn from detail, and that the subject that we're bringing back to the applicant to ponder is the so-called grand mansard roof? Is that a fair assessment or no? Are we going back to zero?
We're not going back to zero.
Okay.
I think that the commission has been very clear about its looking very favorably on the concept of this entire development. And the applicant has obviously made great progress with today's public hearing and
I agree too.
comments. So I got nothing but, I feel nothing but good about it. And I think that what we're asking for is, okay, we've got a concept here. Let's have the applicant take it to the next level of design refinement, and then let's review it.
I do think in addition to that, we're asking for some more thought about the mansard.
Yes. we're looking for
And are there alternative ways of changing the goal of dealing with those mechanicals? We're not saying you can't have it there. We just.
Well, I think it brings up another question, which is, where are the mechanicals?
Right.
We don't see that in the roof plan. We don't see that in the floor plan. We just had a discussion about where the trash location was. I don't think the commission's ever had a discussion about the location of the trash, and it's important. It's important for the design, and it's also important for the livability of the project. So yeah, where are the mechanicals that are going to be required for every hotel that has massive air conditioning requirements? Where do they sit in the site? Where are they?
I had a tiny little rooftop sort of hidden behind the mansard, but now that you guys have given us all this flat roof, we can put them anywhere on the addition. They'll fit behind a parapet screen. I mean, seriously, we've introduced an enormous, and you know, Chip, this is my first flat roof in Hudson. I've worked here for 6 years, and this is the first flat roof I've done. You want to talk about mechanical equipment and stuff? We don't show any. You know, I am in awe of some of the projects, mechanical equipment that's sticking out of their roofs and out behind the part that the HVAC approved. So we're going to take this all very seriously. I think you guys have given us a really, really good lead here. And Matthew agrees that I think we've got enough takeaway to accept the need for hotel entrance and the need for overrides, but you don't like the formal solution. We'll just work through another formal solution until we find something you like.
This is Matthew, if I could say something. That's just 3 quick points. We hear the message about the mansard. We get it. We'll take a look at it. I think the project will benefit from that. Number 2, in terms of materials and additional details, I hear people talking about sheet metal. Corrugated metal is a very elegant backdrop material. It is not sheet metal. Yes, we can get you images and we can get you physical samples of what that is. In terms of the other details, we want to proceed with the other details. We need to have approval of the concept and then we move forward with those details. In terms of mechanical, that's the point that we are in the project. We're looking at some type of a heat pump type of system that would have some units, but they would be screened because of their location in the massing of the building, and they would be rooftop, but you would not see them.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just want to say, Matthew, you said it earlier, which really resonated with me, which is, you know, can now that you have the extra space in the back, you and Walter both said it, can you just de-formalize or de-emphasize the mansard? Can you make that, and I think that's where you're going, but that, you know, make that somehow less so, and in so doing can even if it means doing more behind it, and I think you'll achieve what you want. The other thing is,
thank you, John. That's what I'm hearing.
I didn't bring it up, but I agree with Chip's point. We just never got to it before, but I'd had concerns about it when it was 2 gambrel roofs. Just those flat new elements in the back in the alley. I tend to agree with Chip, right? Like if there's some, you know, I don't know if you want windows in your garbage room. That's not what I'm saying. And I don't want them to be Disney-esque faux windows either, but that's understand that the row house is original, but that new element, it's a lot of blank space for our alley to absorb. So if you could consider that, I think it would benefit.
Sure. Yeah, it's just this, maybe I'm oversharing here. But if the part of the, if we look at that blank square, the left-hand side, that's where the guest room is. We can probably accommodate something there. Maybe not at the first floor because of the grade, but on the left-hand side, we can definitely do something. The right-hand side of that is really where the entrance and the bathrooms are. Maybe not there, but can we do something? I think so.
Cool.
You know, I just want to say quickly though, in Old Hudson, there would have been a blank wall and it would have had a sign hand painted on it. You know, we'll look at a number of different options. I think what we're asking for, I got the eyes on the alley concept, but you know, really honestly, they're going to have security cameras and a guy's going to be sitting there. So, and nobody in the hotel room is ever going to have their curtains open on the alley. So they're not going to be, you know, so the security is understood. We'll find an architectural treatment that's appropriate that doesn't disturb the guests. Let's say that. And for the mansard, as long as we can get our elevator rides, we'll find either a form or a cladding treatment that is acceptable to the board, you know, and we will just do that until we have to do something else. So, yeah.
In this drawing, it appears as though maybe you're considering a brick water table on what is now the blank wall. If that is considered to be brick, I think that's a very good way to the top of that brick wall finish might even want to be raised some in this composition. I think brick would be a successful material there to begin to break up the other elements that you have there. I think the recess it's hard to read. The commission can't fully read this recess that you have for the door and the 3 windows there. I think that recess is important and creates and is successful in thinking about breaking that massing up and making it a composition of smaller parts on the alley.
Right. Okay. I like the brick idea a lot. We're going to work with that too. I think that's a nice idea.
Okay. Is there anything that you guys feel we are not being clear about, or you feel we're?
I do have one other question, if I may. The door that is there on the alley side, is that a door of high frequency use? Or is that an exit only door?
It would be an exit only door.
Yeah.
And, you know, Matthew, do you want to go ahead? Yeah.
Yeah, that's an exit only door.
Okay.
I mean, a guest could go in there. It would have a key reader and you could get to your room if you needed to sneak in after hours or something.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, I don't know how the guest ended up there, but could it happen? I guess.
Yeah.
The reason I'm
It's
asking.
not intended to be high use.
Okay, well, the reason I'm asking is that, for instance, if it were to be high use, that further benefit could be given to side windows into that space, again, more transparency, more life. And not just a door on the wall. I see you've done it with what appears to be a sign. I don't know if that's a sign or an awning that's above the door.
Fine.
But these kinds of architectural elements give life to that building and give life to the alley.
Okay, we're pausing. I'll ask the same question. Are you guys clear going forward, or do you need further clarification from us?
Matthew, would you like to answer that? I'm pretty.
I think it's clear, and I think part of me feels a little disappointed, but at the same time, I think that some of the comments here I have to admit I agree with, and it's the process, and we will take a look at. We'll give some of these are kind of straightforward to look at. We'll have to give the mansard some thought, but is it clear? Yes, it is clear.
Okay. Then that's great. That's all I was hoping for, that we stay very direct with one another on what has to get done, because obviously a lot of great work has already been done, and you guys have been super responsive. So
I mean, I have to manage the message going back to my client, who really wants, they want progress and they want the project to go forward. This will have an impact on their schedule, but at the same time, we need to make the right long-term decisions.
I think Chip's point is obviously correct. There is a level of detail on some of this stuff that we really never got to. I know it feels like we did, but we didn't.
I could not agree with you more on that, but I think we want to get the concept approved and then we move forward to develop those things. If we had exhaustively detailed the addition on top of the row house, the townhouse, and that went away, I think we have good direction here, and we want to do it. That's what we do here. We want to move forward with that.
All right. Thank you for that, and thank you for understanding.
So I just want to make one thing, just be clear on this. So I'm understanding this. A number of points were raised by the commission. A number of points were raised by the public. One of the points raised by the public was there were granite piers on Warren Street. We've made the statement, which I think is an accurate and fair statement, that we will record and preserve any extant granite piers. We do not currently have any plans, nor would we wish to have any plans to restore those piers. And I just want to make sure that the commission agrees with that so that we don't, spend more time not addressing something. Do we need to look at the Warren Street facade, or can we detail what we're proposing, and will that be acceptable, do you think?
In the normal course of business, you would point out original historic materials that are significant in your plan and indicate best efforts to retain and restore those elements. It's just kind of standard business.
I don't think the commission's been informed about what the concept approach is for this storefront. So we haven't had any discussion about that.
I think we did in one meeting, but okay.
I think the concept of the big picture concept of having storefronts on Warren Street is perfectly appropriate. The question is, how does that get done? Is something that's up to the applicant to present us with how one intends to pursue that. And Walter, I don't think you explained to us where those piers are and how you're intending to deal with it in any kind of detailed way.
Then may we spend 2 more minutes? I don't want to take anybody's time because I'd
Oh,
like to.
please do, it's time well spent.
Again, I apologize, John. I think when I reacted the way I did, it's because I'm a little confused about how long we've been in this particular process. So, I do have a very strong recollection that we discussed these 2 piers that are on the south elevation here, because they are the only 2 piers that I know of that are extant, and they are visible and they have some nice signage. We intend to preserve those along with the element above. And again, anything else we find, we would restore. But Chip, to your point, and I'm sorry if this wasn't clear before, we intend to restore these 2 granite piers, and where there was a probably early 20th century, but maybe late 19th century storefront put in that was a more traditional glass storefront like you would see in an opened up building, we're proposing putting that what we believe would have been close to the original back in. That's what this is, with an entrance door on the corner. And then this is actually an existing door, and this is a door that exists in a historical plan. So we've made and again, I'm sorry for this word, a kind of portmanteau of existing fabric, what we found in the record that we could hang our hats on, and frankly, the requirements of a commercial storefront. So we have details of this, we can bring those in. But again, to the point somebody made, Matthew, I guess we'd like to make sure all of the elements are essentially approvable and then present the details, if that makes sense. Or if you want us to do it the other way, I think we can certainly show you storefront and so forth.
Well, Walter, it seemed to me like you were just asking us a moment ago to approve that you would restore the 2 masonry piers, and that you would do something else otherwise. And that you drew a line in the sand saying that you were not going to add any more piers. Well, I don't think the commission's informed about whether the commission should agree to you drawing a line in the sand saying that should be no more piers. We don't even know whether there should be any piers or not. We haven't had any discussion about what that storefront is. So
well,
you're asking for something without giving us any information.
Again, I apologize. I thought we'd had that discussion, and if we hadn't had that discussion, let's have that discussion next time. We'll make a thorough presentation of this storefront next time.
Wonderful.
Great.
Well done. Anybody else? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Commissioners, any other business? If y'all got it, if not, we'll take a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion.
Second, Jeremy, we're adjourned.
Thank you.